be like on TikTok and go, oh, there's a 10-gram mushroom challenge. I think I might like to try that. Because that, I'll tell you right now, that will not end up well for you. Yeah, I'm just coming to the end of a trip. I'm not gonna make this very long because I probably shouldn't be making this video at all. I had a couple emotional barrages happen, so I had a trip just maybe 3 or 4 days ago, a very light 2-gram trip. I decided to double up my dose and took 4 grams of these blue meanies, and they were a little bit mean to me. So I'm not so sure, like, thought I was going to progressively take more and more until I could get up to high dose again, because this was pretty much a heroic dose, and I feel that I handled it okay. But to get much more, I mean, it's going to be so difficult. I don't know how I scaled up to 14 grams in the past. My goal is to get up there because I know that's where the really mystical shit starts to happen. And it's just difficult. It really tests your ability to get through that sort of thing. I mean, you'd have to, really dive into deep psychedelics to understand what I'm even talking about. It's just not, it's, to take them repeatedly for long periods of time, it's completely unsafe. I know it is, but I know that to get that really wild, crazy stuff to start happening, that's how far you have to get. Yeah, like I'm pretty exhausted and tired, and all I did was just sit around and trim up a bunch of weed that I had to do. But it's just so taxing on the system. And then to think, I was gonna do this again in a few days and up the dose again. I really don't know how I was doing that before. I think more than anything, my worry and, just the things that go through my own mind when I'm doing this sort of thing is just having the support system, just knowing that others are not going to be worried about me, because that's what really flows through my mind when I'm so far out there. I'm concerned about the way others may be concerned about my welfare. And I don't want other people to be worried. So it's the following morning, and I'm not going to bother turning on the lights or opening the curtains. It's a dark, gloomy day outside again anyway. I want to elaborate a little bit more on this trip that I had yesterday. When I was taking those clips yesterday, I was still really coming out of the trip. I should have probably waited a little bit longer. I was still quite zoned out, I guess. That was a premeditated trip. So it's not like, I should take mushrooms today. I decided this, planned it like a week earlier, and I had taken 2 grams earlier in the week with the idea that I would double the dose later on in the week. And I think that's the method that I really used 2 years ago when I scaled up to, really high dose to get to 14 grams of mushrooms. And people are probably wondering, like, why do you want to do that? And it's the experiences that you can have at high dose is a lot different than lower dose of mushrooms. And what I just had was pretty much a heroic dose. You get to 4, 5, 6 grams. You're pretty much talking the heroic level, and some very great lessons can come from that amount of mushrooms. But where I found that the real wild stuff starts to happen is up at that really high dose level. So, getting above 8 grams to 10 grams and above that, things really start to change, and the trip really takes a completely different life form. So ultimately, my plan was to take mushrooms every few days and start scaling them up every few times. So if I took 4 grams yesterday, you know, tomorrow or the next day I would take another 4 grams, and then a few days from then maybe I would take 6, and start to slowly increase the dosage, because even though the tolerance level is still kind of there and it builds up a little bit, the experiences start to change drastically. It's not just like being able to like sit around and giggle or like ponder around in your own thoughts. It gets to the point where your visual cortex will start to be overridden by other things, and you'll start to see things that aren't there. And then what I've personally found is information seems to come out of nowhere. But I don't want to get too far into that right now. I kind of want to talk about this trip a little bit more. And I did take some audio notes. I did get emotional a few times. And one of the first things that I really took notice of was psychedelics can really start to help you identify the differences between you and somebody else, or, you know, a general population. For me, it helps me see how differently some of my actions through life and the things that I've done are quite different from others. And I can see the concern or worry that the people that care about me would have for some of these things that I've done. But at the same time, I don't want them to be that way. There is no reason for them to be that way. And it just makes me feel like their worry is a problem, and it's something I need to remedy. But really, it's just something they need to remedy. So what I actually did when I started feeling the effects was go and lay down. I was gonna try and have a closed eye trip, and actually like just pull my hat over my eyes and keep them closed, and just kind of see what happened. I was very drowsy, and I was thinking, well, laying down, I don't think I'll fall asleep, but we'll just see what happens. And usually, you close your eyes and it's just blackness. But as I did that, I just started getting little patterns and formations coming to me. Nothing really specific and with like great design, and very dim and blurred. But while that was happening, I just started getting that psychedelic mind fuck going on a little bit, and not really being able to concentrate on any one thing, just a barrage of different things coming to me. And at that point I was like, no, this isn't gonna work, or it's not gonna be good. So I ended up getting back up, and I had the plan on trimming a bunch of weed that I had to do. And so that's what I ended up sitting around and doing. Just kind of taking the experience slow. I wasn't really going to watch anything on the screen, but I decided, like, that Midnight Gospel, I absolutely love that show. I've been through the series, but I decided, well, I'll just put it on in the background, and I'll kind of listen to the narrative and whatnot. And that, give me something to kind of look up at once in a while. And that worked out really well. I, was able to kind of flow into the trip a little better. I cut through so much weed that time just evaporated. Like that 4 or 5 hours just went by so quickly that I really had no idea it was, you're in a good trip when you start to forget that you're tripping out. Even when I'm sitting there and I'm trimming up the weed, and I'm just thinking, like, how am I going to get beyond this point? How am I going to go higher than 4 grams? And then I grab my phone and make a couple clips, and even thinking about it then, like, how is it that I'm going to scale up to that point? But the following day, like today, and I'm thinking, why couldn't I take 6 grams in a few days? The trip is over, and everything that was, part of that trip is now kind of done and ended with, and you can almost move on to the next one. Now, when that 6 gram trip comes along, you go to take it. Before even taking the mushrooms, your mind can start to cycle all these crazy thoughts that happened from before, and give you some wild anticipation about actually getting into another trip. It's getting past that point, and as soon as you kind of get into the flow, and start tripping out again, it's a whole new experience every time. Now, psychedelics are something you should really be challenging yourself with. Do not allow someone else to challenge you, or be like on TikTok and go, oh, there's a 10-gram mushroom challenge. I think I might like to try that. Because that, I'll tell you right now, that will not end up well for you. For me to get up to that level again, I almost feel like I should have a trip sitter here, someone in my physical space to reassure me that things are going to be good. In the past, I've kind of had online friends that I could get a hold of on Discord to kind of, talk me through some of these things. Now, I think that support system just not as good as what it was. And I'm really concerned about what, friends and family and just people around me may think. And just having that physical person here to give me some reassurance would really help, get through some of those darker times, if you know what I mean. And maybe you don't. So yeah, I really don't know if I'm gonna have another trip in a couple days or not. I'm just gonna have to let it play out and see what happens, and see if I want to get back into the psychedelic space or not. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.